Hello everybody. Hello Twitch, hello YouTube. Hello everyone. It has been a long while since we've done one of these. But it's time for another science news, where I find some articles for us to look at and learn a bit about what's been going on in the science world. As soon as I make sure everything's set up, we can get started. Do you think this is good? And that's good. Yeah, all right. So I got some interesting looking stories today. This first one I actually did hear about recently, that surgeons managed to transplant a bladder. And I figured it would be good to learn a bit more detail about how that all works and what can make, I don't know if it's bladder specifically or just organ, however the article will address it. If it's specifically bladder transplantation that is difficult, or just organ transplants in general. Both are pretty complicated at times. Let's get into it. Let's see, first successful bladder transplant in a human was done at the University of Southern California as part of a clinical trial for a new treatment option to patients with terminal bladder disease. First successful human bladder transplant could offer hope for people with bladder problems. I'm just thinking about different kind of bladder issues that people can have, and ones that, thinking about things where it's like, well, if it's anything to do with the immune system, then obviously that would be a bit of a larger issue to deal with. But let's see. On May 4th, 2025, Oscar Lorenzar, and if I mess up any names, I'm sorry, 41, became the first human to successfully receive a bladder transplant. Surgery is part of a clinical trial developed to demonstrate the feasibility of bladder transplants in patients with terminal bladder diseases. The American Cancer Society estimates there will be about 85,000 new cases of bladder cancer in 2025 in the U.S., resulting in about 17,400 deaths, making it the 10th leading cause of cancer death in the country. Okay, so this is talking mostly about... Okay, I don't know if this is specific to bladder cancer alone or just other terminal bladder diseases as well, but to be fair, I don't super know a whole lot about terminal bladder diseases as well. So, I don't know. Oh, it looks like YouTube might have a bit of an issue, but that's okay. We'll just keep going. Nope. No, it's good. It's good. We're good? We're good. We're good. Let's see. So the current treatment for bladder dysfunction is to replace or augment the urinary reservoir, usually from a portion of the patient's intestines. Interesting. To create a new bladder or a path for urine to leave the body. That is... See, I love, medical, innovation and stuff. Because stuff like that, where we actually use, just a different body part or whatever altogether, because it's a similar structure, or perhaps even came from the same stem cell progenitors and everything. I think that's so cool. I think it's really amazing how we learn how to do that stuff and utilize it. So let's see, this procedure comes with risks, including infection. Yep, pretty much any type of surgery, anything where you open up a body that is not usually meant to be open. Internal bleeding and digestion problems. The bladder also has a complex network of blood vessels, which makes transplantation surgeries technically complicated. Real annoying to get all the circulatory stuff under wraps, you know? I'm guessing that's also partly where the internal bleeding can come from a lot of times. Having lost both kidneys and most of his bladder to cancer, damn. Lorenzar has been on dialysis for 7 years to remove waste and excess fluid from his body. In an 8-hour surgery at the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, a team led by Enderber Singhil of the Keck School of Medicine at the University of Southern California and Nima Nasiri of the University of California, Los Angeles, first replace a kidney, followed by the bladder. Which we do kidney transplants all the time, right? Or am I just thinking of you can live having a kidney removed? Which that you can have. The medical team reported an immediate improvement. The new kidney produced a large amount of urine, which drained correctly into the transplanted bladder. No dialysis was needed following the surgery, and Lorenzar has been stable since. Gill, a urology professor at USC, spoke to Science News about the successful transplant. This interview has been edited for length and clarity. Ooh, interview. What made the surgery possible now? Nima Nasiri and I spent 4 years researching and perfecting the techniques to make the surgery possible using both open and robotic surgical methods. Given the technical challenges of surgery, including reattaching the blood vessels in the bladder, they had practiced retrievals and transplantations in 5 recently deceased donors whose cardiac function was maintained on ventilator support. Interesting. So, they basically, if I'm understanding correctly, used cadavers to basically test, I guess, the surgery aspect of it. Much of what made this possible is innovating, refining, and perfecting each step of the surgery until we were able to confidently move forward with the clinical trial. I mean, it's not bad practice, you know? Because at least, like, if there's any issues or anything, you can try to mitigate it early on. How are you monitoring Oscar Lorenzar's health now? As with any organ transplant, we'll be monitoring to ensure that the body does not reject the new organs, and we are cautious of any side effects that the patient may experience. We also will monitor how well the bladder functions. Will the patient be able to contract the bladder and urinate properly over the long term, for example? What's next for bladder transplants? We have seen promising early results with our first patient, and we hope these results are confirmed with future patients who enroll in the clinical trial. We also want to understand the long-term impact of bladder transplantation, including how much function a transplanted bladder can provide and any potential challenges. I guess that's true, so this surgery was done beginning of this month. So, you know, I guess several things can happen, because this guy in particular had bladder cancer, was it? Let's see. Lost both kidneys and most of his bladder to cancer. Yeah, so I wonder if the cancer, you know, can come back in the new bladder. I guess I don't know. The immune system, I want to say synergies is not quite the right word, but basically, if there's any issues with that in getting the new bladder, so it'll be a good learning experience, a lot to look out for, though. So let's see, Well, so there's something else I thought of. Cautious of any side effects that the patient may experience. Because, yeah, I wonder if there's a large amount of inflammation or anything. That's always a pain with any kind of surgery. What's next for bladder transplants? We have seen promising early results with our first patient, and we hope these results are confirmed with future patients who enroll in the clinical trial. We also want to understand the long-term impact of bladder transplantation, including how much function a transplanted bladder can provide, any potential challenges. Did I just... Okay, I might have just reread that. Okay, so that's basically... They didn't go into too much detail about everything. So I guess it was more just a like, hey, this happened. Well, let's see how it turns out. But yeah, let me look something up real quick. I'm curious of let's see. Bladder cancer metastasis sites, because I want to know, did the cancer come from the bladder or did it come from the kidneys? Let's see, metastatic bladder cancer. Okay, I'll go to the lungs, bones, and liver, because obviously that's a thing of, if it is a metastatic cancer, well, they probably have bigger problems than just getting the bladder transplant. I don't know. Or let's see, kidney. Because again, cancer metastasis is so crazy to me, in that we know the sites it will spread to, depending on where it originated. And it's interesting how it always goes to the same place. Let's see, metastatic kidney cancer. Goes to lungs, liver, bones, skin, brain, and adrenal glands. Okay, so maybe it seems like it didn't metastasize from either of those, which could be good. Well, anyways, the next story I got: juvenile capuchins are kidnapping infants of another monkey species. So I was like, okay, crazy. These capuchin teens are basically like, yeah, we're gonna kidnap babies of these other monkeys. Although this spending time with infants from their species is very rare. That makes it sound like it's a good thing. I don't know, we'll see. There's a serious case of stranger danger unfolding on an island off the coast of Panama. A gang of 5 juvenile capuchin monkeys living on I'm just gonna say this is Jicaron Island, has started abducting baby howler monkeys, researchers report May 19th in Current Biology. This bizarre fad, which has no clear purpose, is often deadly for abductees. Oh, Jesus. Animal behaviors are so weird. If you've seen like half the shit that orcas do just for fun, it's like, you know, we think animals are stupid, but then they'll do some crazy shit. Like, I think it's salmon. I could be wrong about that. That orcas like to basically kill and then wear as hats. And it's like, I think all we know about that is that they're just doing it for fun, as far as I'm aware. It's insane. And knowing monkeys and how they act, this probably won't end well. Let's see, capuchins do such interesting, weird, quirky, and sometimes dark things, says Brendan Barrett, an evolutionary behavioral ecologist at the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior in Konstanz, Germany. These behaviors can offer a dark window of reflections into what we do. Well, people do love kidnapping. Abductions aren't uncommon among primates. Scientists spotted macaques stealing infants from each other, and young male capuchins sometimes snag infants in their group for a spot of babysitting. Okay. These would-be caretakers are really delighted when they can get the baby from the mother and run off with it for a while. Oh, they're just really, really excited to, you know, to be babysitters. That's all it is. Let's see, says Susan Perry, an evolutionary anthropologist at UCLA, who was not involved with this study. Baby capuchins are rarely harmed during these sessions, which typically end when the baby gets hungry and starts calling for mom. Is that because mom will come to rescue, or because they're just like, oh, I don't want to actually take care of this thing? Young male capuchin carries one of the abducted howler infants in September 2022. Crazy. Primates spending time with infants from another species is far less common. The only recorded example in the wild occurred in 2004 when researchers in Brazil watched female capuchins raise a baby marmoset. But capuchins do all sorts of weird things, Barrett says. The Jicaron capuchins are known invaders. This island group is the only known Capuchins to have invented the use of stone tools. Still, it was surprising, Barrett says, when a member of his group noticed a young monkey named Joker carrying a howler monkey on its back. Wild name. At first, Barrett thought the Howler Capuchin pair was a one-off, but later the team found another picture of Joker carrying a different Howler baby. I wonder if Joker has any particular goal in mind, or if he could have babies of his own, if that's where it stems from. By reviewing 19 months of camera trap footage, the team found that Joker was carrying the first of 4 Howler infants in January 2022. Then in September 2022, 4 more young male Capuchins started carrying Howler monkeys. Unlike Joker, who at least put on the appearance of caring for the babies, these males were just carrying them around, kind of as an accessory, Barrett says. Oh no. All in all, 5 male Capuchin juveniles abducted 11 Howler infants over 15 months. The babies suffered under Capuchin care, with at least 4 dying during the study period. Jesus. Some were as young as a day or 2 old when taken. A few Capuchins continue to carry the Howler corpses around like puppets or dolls. Oh no, Jesus. Barrett says it was sometimes emotionally fraught to parse through the tape. Sometimes you think you're going to be watching a horror movie. Okay, so definitely not Parents of the Year. Christ. But it wasn't clear how the Capuchins were getting the babies. Were they orphaned? Abandoned? The team found footage of an infant howler making the lost call. Hold on. Okay. I guess music just stopped. Where are we? Main lost call while adult howlers called from the trees, presumably searching for their baby. Meanwhile, the Capuchins threatened the adult howlers. That really cemented that this was abduction for us, Barrett says. It's not clear why Capuchins have picked up this trend. There's no evidence that the males ate their infant howlers even after they died. Howlers and Capuchins don't compete for the same food, and the infants don't seem to confer any special status to the carriers. Yet the trend is striking, and also very concerning for this endangered howler population, Perry says. It's also a good example of a non-human primate developing a tradition with no clear purpose, she says. There might be a simple reason why Capuchins are abducting babies, Barrett says. The Jicaron Capuchins have no predators and might experience boredom on their island. Stealing infants might simply be interesting and stimulating, he says. It makes me wonder what else they're doing. Well, there you have it. Howler monkey mothers, beware. Keep your children close and safe. Because apparently Capuchins are starting to use them as accessories. Wild. Nature is fascinating. This next story, scientists use a levitating magnet to hunt for dark matter. And granted, I don't really know much about dark matter, but I figured this could be interesting to read about. Because I thought, you know, again, this article is gonna come completely from ignorance. I thought dark matter was just kind of out in space somewhere. Like, can we just have it on Earth? Quantum-based technique could reveal the presence of hypothetical ultralight particles. In a first-of-its-kind test. Oh yeah, this is the magnet, by the way. Just kind of floating there. Magnet levitates over a superconductor. Scientists use this phenomenon to search for ultralight dark matter. Ah, ultralight dark matter. So I'm assuming this is referring to weights or something. In a first-of-its-kind test, scientists used the levitated magnet to search for dark matter, the unidentified substance believed to be present throughout the cosmos. If dark matter is made up of ultralight particles, it could behave like a wave that would subtly jostle the magnet. Although no signs of such jostling appeared, a few tweaks could improve the experiment's sensitivity to dark matter's potential influence, researchers report in a paper to be published in physical review letters. I wonder, depending on what tweaks they're going to put in, and how sensitive the superconductor is going to be, if it would make it too sensitive to where you would be picking up other things that you don't mean to. Scientists believe dark matter must exist to account for astronomical observations that suggest an unidentified source of mass in the cosmos. Dark matter has evaded a wide variety of detection attempts. Yeah, so that's kind of what I figured, is that we don't know a whole lot about dark matter. And largely very theoretical about how everything works. So, astroparticle physicist Christopher Tunnell of Rice University in Houston was looking for new ways to search for it. Tunnell and colleagues realized that an existing experiment, originally designed to make sensitive gravitational measurements, could spot ultralight dark matter. In the experiment, a magnet with a mass of less than a milligram was suspended within a container made of a superconductor, a material that conducts electricity without resistance. The magnet's motion was monitored with a quantum device designed to measure changes in magnetic fields, known as a squid. Let's see, use this apparatus to make measurements of a levitated magnet that provide a new method to hunt for dark matter. Neat. If ultralight dark matter exists and interacts with normal matter via a new type of force, the dark matter wave would have subtly jiggled the magnet. Tunnell and colleagues reanalyzed the data from that experiment to search for dark matter's influence, but found no evidence of it. The experiment was not the most sensitive search for ultralight dark matter, but it was optimized for gravitational measurements, not dark matter detection. So, some simple changes, such as increasing the mass of the magnet, could allow it to outperform other techniques. The researchers aimed to switch to a larger magnet with a mass of a few hundred milligrams. The idea, which melds quantum technologies with particle physics detections, came out of a climate protest where Tunnell met physicist Geert Oosterkamp of Leiden University in the Netherlands, a co-author of the paper. The improved experiment is to be called Polonaise, after a traditional Polish dance that the two co-authors did to keep warm at the protest. Very interesting. You'll never know where you'll get your next scientific collaboration, I guess. But yeah, overall, sounds very theoretical. Very cool if it does turn something up. One last story that I have, and these science news streams are usually pretty fast. But if anyone wants to bring anything basically for discussion, you can always do so. I'm always down to talk about whatever new exciting scientific things are going on. Immune resilience gene signature could hold the key to healthy aging. So I'm pretty sure, I glanced through this one, I think it's going to get pretty heavy, but I can at least parse through this one. In a new study, researchers found that certain gene signatures make people more likely to bounce back from disease and live longer. The finding fits into a new framework that reconceptualizes the way we think about aging. I will say, I kind of always dislike the, I guess, moniker of talking about healthy aging or like reversing aging or whatever. Because it's kind of like one of those things of like, you can't stop aging. Like, you can't, I don't even think you can really slow aging per se. Like, it's kind of all relative when you talk about aging. But let's see. The researchers analyzed gene signatures of 17,500 people of all ages and health backgrounds and found that high levels of one transcription factor, the name for proteins that switch a particular gene on or off, kept popping up in the most immune resilient individuals. TCF7 plays a very, very important role in maintaining T-cell immunity and T-cell stemness. Stemness meaning naivete, keeping youth. So basically, important transcription factor in one of your immune cell, one of the cells in your immune cell arsenal, I suppose, is a way to put it. But Hua is a medical doctor at the Veterans Affairs Center for Personalized Medicine in San Antonio, Texas, and a professor at the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. When we think about the aging process, we generally think in terms of disease, Hua says. But aging and getting an age-related disease, such as Alzheimer's, are not the same thing, he emphasized. That's true. See, that's kind of what I was talking about with, like, aging of, it's weird. You kind of have to define it, I feel like. There are some centenarians who grow old without developing age-related diseases, but they die. The framework proposed by Uhua and his team views the aging process as independent from health generation and disease development, which can be thought of as opposing forces that are in a constant push-pull with each other. A yin-yang framework of aging. According to Uhua, along our journey from womb to tomb, we encounter three forces: salutogenesis, pathogenesis, and aging. I actually don't know what salutogenesis is. I know we'll talk about, but getting diseases and then I guess actually growing older. The salutogenic force, or health-promoting force, counters immune aging, inflammation, and cellular senescence, the permanent arrest of cell growth. Uhua calls this the pathogenic triad. Keeping this pathogenic triad at bay is key to longevity, but exposure to pathogenic threats along one's lifetime is also necessary to build immune resilience. So it's kind of that middle ground of you don't want to get too many diseases, but you kind of have to experience some disease to build your body's immune system up, otherwise a disease will just come along and then wipe out your weak immune system. You've always had to encounter infections. They are the strongest evolutionary force that has shaped our human genome, Uhua said. We have lived in some sort of harmony with infections. In fact, many viruses have captured human genes, changed those around, incorporated them in their genome, so they could continue their longevity or propagation without killing us, he added. Unlike most other species, humans have a post-reproductive window, allowing us to live well into our 70s, 80s, and even older. The grandmother hypothesis, which suggests that grandmothers stayed alive to help rear their grandchildren, could explain this evolutionary adaptation, at least in women. Universally, women tend to live longer than men, which Uhua says is partially due to their better immune resilience. This ideal window for having and raising children has been coined the biological warranty period by longevity expert S.J. Olshansky. Uhua defines it as the lifespan window which facilitates both the reproductive phase as well as the post-reproductive phase. This biological window is also crucial to swing the odds of living longer in our favor. People who manage to preserve their optimal immune resilience have a longevity advantage that extends them through their particular biological warranty period, Uhua stated. Specific biomarker linked to greater likelihood of survival. In their study, Uhua and his team found that the probability of making it past the biological warranty period is highly correlated with high TCF7 levels, that transcription factor we talked about earlier, that helps with transcription of your T cells. Or, I don't think it described the exact mechanism, but yeah. Along with several other biological signatures. A 40-year-old person, if they had an extreme immune resilience status according to the metrics that we studied, they had a 15.5-year survival disadvantage, he explained. In other words, a person at the same age with optimal immune resilience can be expected to live 15.5 years longer than the poorly resilient person. To me, when you say extreme immune resilience, I assume that means your immune resilience is good. But okay. After a biological warranty period, which ends around age 70, the protective effect of biological signatures the researchers identified, which they call the immune resilience program, collapses, but other protective signatures may be at work. So it sounds like it's basically saying, like, you get to 70, like, you're dying, you're done. You're so old, it's time for you to go. But then other parts of your immune system body will kind of help take care of that. We think there are other biomarkers on other programs that will provide you with a greater protective effect for a longer period of time, Uhua commented. We suspect there's an our resilience program that could extend someone a little longer, and hopefully we'll describe that soon, he added. Common survival signatures in COVID-19 HIV patients. Hua says their study, which involved genetically profiling participants in the Veterans Affairs COVID-19 longitudinal cohort, as well as the Framingham Heart Study, has been years in the making, beginning with earlier work on HIV. When COVID began, I realized there were some features of patients with COVID that looked like what I would see in my practice with HIV in my prior research. So I guess general immune responses and general immunity to different diseases. We applied those markers, what we call immune health grades, to all our patients who had COVID at our Veterans Administration Hospital, he explained. So this is interesting, because I wonder if we do kind of figure out, like, what immune factors someone would need to be healthy, I guess, in general. We could kind of, I guess, almost rank how good our immune systems are. And I also wonder if that could apply to the future of, like, if that's something you could tweak, if you could create, have something or take something to make your immune system specifically better for whatever genes or whatever, responses you need. That would be... I think the immune system is a very interesting field to study. And unfortunately, it's very much a big balance system. And not just say, like, oh, we need to have a bunch of this and we'll be good. But I think it's very interesting. Let's see. Hua's colleagues found that people who had the best immune health grade, 1 on a scale 1 to 4, okay, pretty small, determined in the blood tests, were more likely to recover from COVID regardless of age. We then sequenced the genome for gene expression of people with COVID, and we asked if the genes or gene signatures that were protected for COVID or associated with mortality with COVID overlap with the gene signatures, if they had an effect on mortality or survival, in the Framingham Heart Study, very large study conducted in America. So basically looking at all the genes that infected people had to see if they could find any patterns as a result. We studied about 3,000 of them and found that some of the signatures protected people from dying from COVID, he went on. They were also associated with survival in the Framingham Heart Study. That was very interesting to us. Hua calls these shared signatures of survival immune resilient signatures. High TCF7 levels, along with low levels of other gene signatures that degrade immune resilience, protect against the pathogenic triad, premature mortality, age-related diseases such as Alzheimer's, and vaccine unresponsiveness. Although Hua believes that we can take actions to enhance salutogenesis and counteract pathogenesis, he's skeptical that we can actually change the rate at which we age. Okay, so basically, kind of like what I was talking about with changing immune system, I guess, saying we might be able to, enhance our immune system and kind of counteract getting diseases, but not sure we can actually change the rate we age, which, could be a whole nother level of factors. When asked if we could slow human aging, he responded with, "I don't think so." This view is in line with Olshansky's, who, in a statistical study, found that overall life expectancy has been decelerating since 1990. According to Olshansky, radical human life extension is implausible in this century. So basically, I don't think that, I don't know if people thought it would work this way, but I don't think we're exactly going to live to, like, say, 200, we would have to come up with some crazy medical/scientific advancements to do that. Future work and possible ways to enhance TCF7. Although Hua and his team only analyzed data from the Veterans Affairs COVID-19 longitudinal cohort and participants of the Framingham Heart Study, he says they would like to study additional cohorts, ideally monitoring people more frequently and throughout their lives, which is difficult due to high costs involved. To create such large studies where you can follow people serially, sample them serially, is very challenging. HIV is a very interesting model system, for example, because there is this unusual paradox. People living with HIV develop age-related diseases at a younger age. There's a divergence in their biological age and chronological age, so some of our patients will die of a heart attack at a young age when they should have died at a much later age relative to their HIV negative counterparts. So I guess HIV basically, again, kind of making it like hands off of you could die of something very early on that if you were not HIV positive, you would have probably, lived a good amount longer. But we can treat HIV very well now. As for the effects of diet and exercise, more studies need to be done, but it has some initial insights. We have studied some very small exercise cohorts where if you do, say, a 24-week exercise setting window, you have benefits, but then when you stop after a 2-week washout period, you go back to your baseline, he shared. It's basically, if you do exercise, you gotta keep doing it. You can't stop. He suspects diet and perhaps medications might also influence TCF7 levels, but the researchers haven't looked at these aspects yet. Who also says the power of meditation and mindfulness should not be underestimated. Based on some of the other work we're doing, I think there's a very strong mind-body synergy. We kind of forget that that is a very important component. We should not neglect the very powerful influence of bi-directional forces of mind and body, he said. It's basically almost like the area that that like placebo effect comes from. There is a lot really strong forces that your mind can have over your body. But yeah, that's all I gathered for today. So like I said, real sweet, real short. But yeah, some interesting stuff. I need to start keeping a list, I think, for things that I want to check in on in the future of how the studies or whatever, how they're doing. But yeah, that will be it for today. Hope anyone that came by has a good rest of your day or night. And till next time, I'll see you later.